My host excuses himself, stepping into another room. And when he returns, he's holding history in his hands. What is this? Welcome to Northwest Orient Flight 305. Destination, Seattle. 43 souls aboard. And one of the last to arrive is a passenger who looks just like any other. Dark suit, black tie. Just another anonymous businessman headed home for the holidays. Our passenger has bought himself a ticket using the name Dan Cooper. He carries a briefcase which hasn't been inspected by airport security. That's because here in 1971, despite a rash of attempted hijackings, there isn't any airport security. On board, passengers are stowing their belongings, taking their seats, and settling in for the short 28-minute flight. Thank you. Mr. Cooper settles into seat 18E at the back of the aircraft and orders himself a bourbon and 7-Up, a sophisticated drink at the time. It isn't until the plane taxis away from the gate that he hands 23-year-old flight attendant Flo Schaffner a note. Of course, a lot of businessmen pass notes to Flo, so she promptly disregards it. But this one was different. And just like that, the fate of this normal commuter flight has suddenly changed course and is about to become the stuff of legend. Everything we know about what Cooper said and did that night comes from witness statements and the vast case files of the FBI, which are sealed and now shelved. So I'm starting my investigation right here in New York by meeting with Jeffrey Gray, the author of the best-selling book Skyjack. He's also the only investigative journalist with a copy of the full FBI files. Have all of these been seen publicly before or no?
These are documents that have never been released or never really been shown in any forum until right now.
How did this come to pass?
You know, I'm an investigative reporter, so I cannot tell you where I got these FBI confidential case files.
It wouldn't be a D.B. Cooper story if you could. There has to be some sense of mystery. Cooper's taken on this kind of cult status as a character. And we have this image of him, you know, from that sketch. The two FBI composite sketches of D.B. Cooper are iconic. In them, Cooper looks suave. Black suit, straight slicked hair, dark glasses. A cool and collected criminal mastermind. Do you think that's accurate?
One of the new things I can tell you from these FBI files is a description from Robert Gregory.
No passenger gave a more detailed description of the skyjacker than Robert Gregory, who was sitting diagonally across from him. And what he would later tell the FBI in his interview may forever change what we think we know about D.B. Cooper.
And he says that his hair, okay, and you can see here, was jet black, wavy, a greasy patent leather sheen. So Gregory also tells us something else. The clothing, reddish brown suit with wide lapels, color was unusual, more of a russet color, and then you have the tie. This guy's tie wasn't a Pierre Cardin, it was a Towncraft, which means he got it from JCPenney. It was actually a 3-year-old tie that busboys used.
Sounds like an ugly 70s suit.
A completely ugly suit. This is like a leisure suit Larry. We have evidence that shows a very different guy.
Right.
The Cooper who took over this airplane, the skyjacker, and the Cooper who everyone knows are two different guys.
Cooper, it turns out, wasn't exactly Don Draper. His appearance was much more ordinary, his clothes disheveled and thrown together. But for some reason, that description was never factored into the now famous sketches. Over the years, the FBI interviewed nearly 1,000 potential suspects based on the drawings, including men turned in by their own suspicious families. None were ever charged with the crime.
If we really want to understand who D.B. Cooper is, we have to understand that there is no D.B. Cooper.
He's right. It was only through a widely repeated media error that he even became known as D.B. The man who hijacked Flight 305 was ticketed under the name Dan Cooper.
That is probably one of the biggest clues in the case. Now, for years, the FBI was stumped. What they didn't know was that there actually was a Dan Cooper, but that Dan Cooper wasn't a person. It was actually a comic book character. And I'll show you what Dan Cooper looks like.
This is the comic.
That's Dan Cooper.
So hold on, this is a comic about a guy named Dan Cooper, and the cover is literally him jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. I mean, that's an impossible coincidence, isn't it?
I think that is a coincidence that is too coincidental to ignore.
The comic book was published in Belgium, but was popular in Canada. It features a brazen military parachutist. If this was Cooper's inspiration, he could well be French-Canadian, in the military, or a wannabe daredevil. So the current state of affairs with this case, publicly, is that the FBI has said, kind of, we give up.
This case is being investigated every day, and the people I think who have the best grip on the case are the civic sleuths that have actually, are responsible for making the big latest breaks.
There are really, I'll diplomatically use the word passionate people who are really deep into this.
Well, you know about the Cooper curse, right?
No. What's the Cooper curse?
The Cooper case is an obsession. There's no way not to get obsessed with it once you start getting into it. And just when you think you're onto him, you learn something else that takes you in another direction.
What is it about the Cooper story that's so obsessive?
It's a treasure hunt, and the hunt is unveiling the true identity of the hijacker, and the stakes are very high.
Armed with a handful of new clues and a plan not to go off the deep end, I begin my investigation to find out who D.B. Cooper really was, how he commandeered that aircraft, and how he got away. The flight from Portland to Seattle is less than half an hour. A few minutes after takeoff, Cooper lists his demands to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She jots them down and then quickly takes them to the cockpit. Cooper's demands are fairly straightforward. He asks for $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, a fuel truck to be waiting in Seattle, and, thoughtfully, food for the flight crew. Flight 305 is being hijacked. The crew immediately follows the required protocols.
Northwest 305, we're being hijacked.
When they land in Seattle, Cooper exchanges the passengers for the money and parachutes, and he tells the flight crew he wants to go to Mexico. Since he claims to have a bomb, they have no choice but to oblige. With the money and the parachutes aboard, Flight 305 gets back in the air. But what route it takes when it leaves Seattle is, like everything else in this case, a mystery. To chase Cooper, I catch my own flight to where Northwest Orient 305 first took off. Portland, Oregon. Portland is a unique town. We'll never use that. It's the perfect place to hitch up your tiny unicorn, try a hipster bacon-covered donut. Get me a work application. I work here now. It's happening. I'm a full-time employee at a store. Or hit up a craft brewery. Oh my God, that's a lot of beer.
Happy 50th state!
My crew has arranged a little surprise party for a milestone I'm honored to reach. I'm finally visiting my 50th state.
50 beers for 50 states.
Oh my God, okay, so it's 1 beer per state. Brian, where are you from?
Alabama.
Alabama.
Texas.
Texas, there we go.
Connecticut.
The mean streets of Connecticut.
Michigan.
Michigan gets a beer. Cheers, everybody. All the best. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Woo! But I'm not just in town to celebrate. I'm here to investigate. Cooper hijacks the plane here in Portland. After getting the money and parachutes in Seattle, the plane heads south toward Mexico. Based on when the FBI believes Cooper jumped out of the plane, they establish a search zone in the forests around Ariel, Washington, which is where I'm headed next. So this is the original FBI search area. Miles and miles of nothing but forests and mountains. And frankly, this is a terrible place to jump out of an airplane. I mean, look around. You've got nothing but incredibly tall trees that you could get impaled or snagged up on. You've got lakes, you've got rivers. There's very little infrastructure here, very few roads that he could escape out on. But after 4 decades and thousands of investigators pouring through these woods, nobody's found a parachute, nobody's found a body. The man who called himself Dan Cooper appears to have just vanished off the face of the earth. But what if the reason the FBI never found anything in these woods is because Cooper was never here? I grab a car and drive 20 miles to connect with 3 dedicated aviation experts and researchers who have asked me to meet them at a spot called Tina Bar.
Hey, Josh.
I'm Josh. How are you?
Hi, Josh. I'm Bruce.
Hey, Bruce. Nice to meet you. How are you, sir?
Nice to meet you, Josh. I'm Meyer Louie.
Meyer, nice to meet you guys. The FBI established their drop zone pretty far away from here. And how did you guys come up with one that's so different?
The FBI was looking where most commercial airplanes flying at 10,000 feet or lower would be flying. And that would be in that area about 20 miles that way, to the east. The speculation is this: with a bomb on board, the pilots didn't want to fly over populated areas of Vancouver and Portland. So if they flew a few miles west, they would avoid that.
Right.
And that puts them right here.
The plane's accepted flight path over Ariel, Washington established the FBI search area. But since the pilots wanted to avoid major cities, the men theorized that the actual course would have been further west, over this very spot.
This spot is significant because it's the only place where any money from the D.B. Cooper story has ever been found.
In February of 1980, a family on a camping trip was building a fire pit when their young boy swept his hand through the sand and found 3 stacked bundles of cash totaling $5,800, all bearing the serial numbers of D.B. Cooper's ransom money. Some are convinced that it was placed here by Cooper himself as a diversion. Others think it washed up after Cooper died in the fall.
So when that money was found, the FBI, I'm sure, turned up here in droves, right?
Yes.
But did they search this whole area, the spot you've identified as the new drop zone?
No.
So they focused here, but not the rest of this new drop zone?
Yes.
We think that area needs to be searched more.
What stands to be found here, do you think?
Basically, the remnants of a parachute and a harness.
The metal hardware on the parachute, the frame, harnesses, clips, and some personal items like
Pocket
belt
knife.
buckles, pocket knife, things like that.
And let's not forget the rest of the money,
And the money.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right, boys, well, let's get to it, huh?
This is a fairly vast area, so the men have called in reinforcements in the form of a small army of D.B. Cooper enthusiasts. And with metal detectors in hand, we all fan out to see if history might be right under our feet.
Part of me feels really confident about this search. You know, I do buy into the logic behind it, but it's hard to escape the fact that what we're looking for is a real needle in a haystack. It's not just one man or a parachute or money. It's in an area that has changed so much. We're talking about almost 50 years on now. So the hunt may be in a promising place, but that doesn't mean that it's easy.
Lucky for us, it only takes an hour to get a solid hit on our metal detectors.
Something big there. Meyer, I got a pretty big hit!
Did Josh find something?
My search for the most legendary lost ship of the Great Lakes brings me to America's front yard.
Welcome to upstate New York, and I mean way upstate. I'm only a few thousand feet from the border of Canada, and the only thing standing between me and our neighbors to the north is nearly 1 million gallons of water a second rushing by.
Niagara Falls, majesty in motion. 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, nearly 1/5 of the world's freshwater supply, drain over the falls. And it's here, beneath these surging cascades, that the story of the Griffin begins. So I'm meeting maritime historian Joan Forsberg to get my feet wet.
Joan,
Hi, Josh. How you doing?
I'm good. Nice to meet you. I take it we're going for a ride.
Yes, a wet ride.
Those of you watching at home may want to grab an umbrella. If you've never been here, just picture climbing into a washing machine. Unbelievable! Come on! Now, Joan, today this is a huge tourist attraction. What would this place have been like 300-400 years ago?
It was pure and wild. The only people that were here were the Seneca Indian tribe. It was their land. But in 1678, French explorers came right to this spot. They were led by the legendary La Salle.
With a name as big as his dreams, René Robert Cavelier Sieur de La Salle is a French ex-priest turned explorer. In the 1670s, America is still very much the New World. The 13 British colonies have just been established, and eastern Canada and the American Midwest are known as New France. Giant swaths of the continent have yet to be mapped. La Salle sets out to change that. His dream is to set up a fur-trading empire and find the fabled Northwest Passage, a hypothetical east-west sailing route above Canada to Asia. But here in Niagara, he hits a major roadblock.
There was this insurmountable obstacle.
Yeah, coming up against this would be pretty imposing.
Yes, he needed a great ship, and he knew he was going to have to build it above the falls.
Speaking of above the falls, maybe we should continue this talk there.
Sounds good.
Joan and I escape the deluge and head to high ground above the falls, only a few miles from where La Salle built his ship.
Once the Griffin is constructed here above the falls, where does she sail?
She was the first ship to traverse Lake Erie, Lake Huron, and went into Lake Michigan.
Wow.
This ship was a trailblazer.
But it's far from smooth sailing. Between the lakes, the ship has to be manually pulled with ropes more than 40 miles up the shallow St. Clair River. The men face brutal storms and hostile encounters with tribes as they trade furs within their territory.
These furs were effectively gold, right? I mean, they were worth a lot.
They were.
The Griffin set sail near Niagara Falls on August 7, 1679. After a 1,000-mile voyage through Lake Erie, Lake Huron, and Lake Michigan, La Salle and his crew land at Rock Island in what's now Green Bay, Wisconsin, where they pick up a shipment of furs. La Salle stays behind to explore the head of Lake Michigan, while his crew sails back to Niagara to sell the furs and return with supplies.
And they sail off into Lake Michigan, and where does she go? We don't know. That's the mystery.
That's the mystery. It's been called the Holy Grail of North American shipwrecks.
While it's been suggested that the Griffin could have been attacked by natives, or even sabotaged by mutinous members of the crew, most believe that she wrecked in a storm. After all, the Great Lakes are famous for unpredictable and deadly weather that could have overwhelmed the ship.
It is the most hunted and the most found shipwreck in the Great Lakes, and maybe in the world.
Each of the Great Lakes is a veritable ship's graveyard, and over the years, countless divers and explorers have come forward to claim victory in the hunt for the Griffin.
And none of those have panned out.
Well, not quite. There are two claims still out there that are really interesting.
One serious Griffin hunter believes the ship sank in the waters of Lake Huron, while another promising theory claims she never made it out of Lake Michigan.
So if I'm going to find the Griffin,
You have to follow that trail the Griffin blazed for you.
all right, I just got to get back across that river. Thank you so much.
Since Lake Michigan was where La Salle's ship was last seen, that's where I'm starting too. My first stop is downriver in Buffalo, New York. Once a shipping powerhouse and factory town,
I'd like to solve, please, Pat. Wonder Tread.
today the city is best known for an invention that's become an American icon. I'm talking about the mighty buffalo wing.
History is delicious. How about you subtitle that? What that says.
I clean my plate, then check out another Buffalo legend, the site where the Griffin was built.
Today, Griffin Park is a quiet and unassuming place. But more than 3 centuries ago, this is where La Salle began construction of the mighty Griffin.
It was a project that seemed almost cursed from the start. LaSalle and his crew began work in January of 1679. Battling wind, snow, and the local Seneca tribe, who were hostile to a foreigner like LaSalle exploring their homeland. By spring, they had miraculously completed construction of the Griffin. But for modern-day explorers searching for the wreckage, there's just one problem. Nobody can seem to agree on what she looked like. Scant information exists on the Griffin's size, weight, and design. Some accounts say she was 30 feet long, with one mast and square sails. Others say a 60-ton, three-masted bark. Or was she a 40-foot, two-master? Whatever her construction, it's believed that she carried 7 cannons, and that her namesake, the mythical Griffin, was carved on the bowsprit or stern. It's not much information to go on, but I'm making the long drive to the last place where the Griffin was seen, Manistee, Michigan, to meet Brendan Baylod, founder of the Great Lakes Shipwreck Research Foundation.
Hey, Josh!
Yes? God?
Up here, Josh!
Brendan!
Hey, come on up!
All right, I'm coming up. Is there an elevator? It turns out there is not. Okay, I made, now there's more stairs. Okay, great. Here we go, Brendan.
Hey, Josh,
How
good to
are
see
you, man?
ya.
Good to see you as well. A little winded from the walk up. Unbelievable view.
It is, it's really something.
All right, here's the little bit that I know. The Griffin left what's now Green Bay, Wisconsin, and she was sailing where?
She was sailing to the Straits of Mackinac, or in that direction, almost due east from here.
And obviously, she never makes it there.
That's right. There's a very detailed historical account from LaSalle himself. He wrote a letter exactly a year after the Griffin was lost in the fall of 1680, basically giving the excuse to his creditors about why he failed on his first expedition.
In this rarely seen letter, LaSalle states that the ship was on its way from what's now Green Bay to its first waypoint in St. Ignace, Michigan, when it was forced to shelter from a storm.
Some Indians called Potawatomis, who had anchored with them on the northern coast, tell me that 2 days after the vessel left the island, this storm arose. There's only one place where ships can shelter between Green Bay and St. Ignace safely, and it's right here.
This bay right here.
Yes, and it's called Solchois.
And this is the Solchois Lighthouse.
That's right. Do you know what that means?
My French is a little rusty, to put it mildly. What does it mean?
It means only choice.
Now I see why you wanted to meet here. We're on the north end of the lake. We're in a protected area. We're literally standing on the only choice, the only safe harbor for that ship.
That's right.
But where did the Griffin go next? Brendan's study of LaSalle's letters may reveal an answer to that question, too.
The pilot, believing the wind to be favorable, set sail contrary to their advice. The wind increased very much, and after that, the bark could not keep a straight course, but drove obliquely towards some islands in the offing called the Huron Islands.
Doesn't that put us in Lake Huron? Aren't those the islands of Lake Huron and not Michigan?
First of all, there are no islands called the Huron Islands in Lake Huron, and never were.
In fact, on contemporary maps, you won't find the Huron Islands anywhere the Griffin sailed.
This map is from 1690. It was drawn here in the New World. It was not drawn with secondhand information in Paris.
This is Lac du Michigan. This is Michigan Lake.
This is Lake Michigan. This is Lake Huron. And if you look up here at the top of Lake Michigan, you're going to see the islands right out there, the Beaver Islands. But on this map, they're called des Îles Huron.
Hot damn, look at that. The Huron Islands.
Just like in LaSalle's account.
That's incredible. This map could change the entire search.
Oh, definitely.
The year is 1959, the height of the Cold War and the dead of winter, when 9 Soviet university students embark on a hiking excursion into the frozen wilderness of Siberia and never return. A search party is dispatched and discovers their abandoned campsite on the slopes of a mysterious peak known as Dead Mountain. The bodies of the hikers are found scattered in the surrounding wilderness. Some have broken bones. 1 is missing her eyes and tongue. 2 have high levels of radiation on their clothes. Strangest of all, none of the hikers are wearing their cold weather gear. All of it left behind neatly organized in their tent, which appears to have been sliced open from the inside. The case inspires wild theories, ranging from top-secret weapons testing, a murder cover-up, or even UFOs or attack by the Yeti. Investigators list the official cause of death as an unknown compelling force. But to this day, no one knows how the hikers died or why. Now, on the 60th anniversary of the hikers' deaths, an American survivalist thinks he's finally found the answer, while one of the world's leading experts on the event believes she can prove this was no accident. Together, they're mounting an expedition for answers, and I aim to join them.
Prior to 1990, Yekaterinburg was actually closed to foreigners altogether because this was the center of the Soviet Union's military-industrial complex during the Cold War. A term that takes on a whole new significance when it is negative 10 degrees out. Good Lord, hi-yi-yi, ha-za-za-za-za.
It may be cold outside, but that doesn't mean this is some provincial outpost. The Tsar Peter the Great founded the city in 1723, and the last emperor of Russia and the entire Romanov dynasty came to a bloody end when they were assassinated here in 1918. Today, though, this is Russia's 4th largest city, home to a population about the size of Dallas, Texas. Believe it or not, this is also the warmest place we'll be visiting on this expedition, which means I'm going to need to upgrade my headgear.
Oh my Lord, look at this.
Russians take their hats seriously. You would too if you lived in your freezer. For a week in the wilderness, I need to choose and choose wisely.
Might be a little much. What is this?
Red fox?
Red fox, you big dummy.
It's an old reference, but I do feel good about that joke.
It's like the Mad Hatter meets Pretty Woman. Look at that.
Oh.
I'm a cat, and you're a cougar.
Finally, I pick a winner.
Huh? Perfection.
Perfection.
It's perfect. I want to be clear, I'm not a believer in fur. Also not a believer in freezing to death, so I am going to make an exception here in Siberia.
With my head properly covered, I walk across town to Ural State Technical University, where in 1959, a young engineering student named Igor Dyatlov formed a sporting club to tackle an expedition to a frigid 4,000-foot-high mountain known as Otorten. On January 23, 1959, the group left Yekaterinburg by train. 8 days later, all but one would be dead. To learn more about the team and their fateful trip, I go to meet Yuri Kuntsevich,
Yuri?
a local historian who founded the Dyatlov Foundation to honor the hikers, and who has collected critical evidence from their case.
Let's talk about these students. What sort of people were they?
Some had just graduated, some were still students. They were studying to become engineers and physicists, but they were basically kids.
In total, there were 9 who died. Igor Dyatlov, for whom the pass would later be named, Yuri Doroshenko, Ludmila Dubnina, Yuri Krivonishenko, Alexander Kolovatov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Rustam Slobodin, Nikolai Thibault-Brignot, and Semyon Zolotaryov. A 10th hiker, Yuri Yudin, turned back early and survived. So what were these young hikers doing deep in the Siberian wilderness?
Like many young people, they loved the outdoors, so they formed a club. Camping, hiking, cross-country skiing. They wanted to earn a certificate from the university, and to do that, they needed to complete what is known as a Class 3 trip into the wilderness.
Yuri, when did you first become interested in this story?
I was 12 when the hikers died. I lived next to the cemetery where most of them were buried. The whole city was fascinated by the story, but there was nothing about it in the newspapers or on the radio.
Either out of embarrassment or, some believe, a cover-up, The story of the bizarre deaths of these hikers was largely suppressed by the Soviet government. And the police even tore down leaflets around campus informing students of the funerals.
When the Soviet Union fell, many case files were opened, but many are still missing.
The official inquiry was so hush-hush that word of the incident didn't leak outside of the Soviet Union until there was no more Soviet Union. What files do exist reveal an incomplete investigation. Authorities rather bluntly concluded that the hikers died of, quote, a compelling unknown force, and simply closed the case. Yuri has collected every piece of evidence he can find in the search for answers.
Are these actual materials from the past?
Yes, the university insisted that they had to document their whole journey. So they all brought cameras and diaries to prove they made the trip.
This is one of their actual original cameras.
The group brought 10 cameras with them, only half of which were later recovered from the pass. Investigators successfully developed over 120 pictures from the expedition, haunting visual clues of the students' movements through the wilderness. More important, though, were meticulous diaries kept daily by the team.
These are the actual diaries.
Every day, that is, until their last. February 1st, 1959.
So Yuri, you've been obviously studying this case for a very long time. What's your theory? What do you think happened to these students?
I don't know for sure. I think it may have had something to do with military testing. Maybe some kind of a rocket launch or missile.
A missile? So what's the missile theory?
Some have suggested that the Dyatlov group was killed by a weapon that detonated in the area, or that they had witnessed a secret test they shouldn't have seen and were killed by the authorities.
We now have two related theories. Either that the Russian military killed the hikers, or that a weapon test resulted in their deaths. Researchers have also proposed that the hikers could have been murdered by an escaped prisoner from a remote work camp. Others suspect the local indigenous people. And then there are those who think a natural event, like an avalanche, was responsible. I'm going to investigate all of these theories and more as I travel to the pass. Meanwhile, Yuri's got something that no one else investigating the case has. What could be a secret piece of physical evidence.
I received something from the visitors to the pass, and I think it's the key to finding out what happened to the hikers.
My host excuses himself, stepping into another room. And when he returns, he's holding history in his hands. What is this?
You have to cover your face every few minutes, or frost nip starts to set in almost immediately. Just about every pocket on these coat and pants and boots are filled with hand warmers and foot warmers, and it's still not enough.
I'm reminded that 60 years ago, Igor Dyatlov and his friends didn't even have insulated parkas. They crafted homemade gear and hiked in leather boots.
This is the Dead Mountain.
So this is the pass right here. This low ground between the peak and the rise over there that they were trying to traverse.
Yes, this is the pass.
We're less than a kilometer from where the tent was.
Mike leads us onward to an exposed but relatively flat area on the side of the slope.
All right, Josh, this is the area where they would have put the tent.
This is the spot.
Right here.
To stand in this spot is nothing short of emotional. For Teddy, it's the culmination of a deep commitment to this case.
You made it.
Woo! After 6 years of reading about this place, I'm finally here.
The preeminent investigator in the world on the Dyatlov Pass incident had never been to the Dyatlov Pass until now.
For me, until now, it was academic.
Right.
I was only reading about it.
Being in this spot, man, this is a story that I've heard about for so long. To actually be standing where it happened, it's really sobering.
The question now is to understand how the hikers arrived at this very spot and what happened to them next.
We know from their diaries that the night before they died, they were camped in the forest down there.
Correct.
So the next day, they were going to come through the pass, and ultimately they were trying to get to a mountain that's over here, correct?
Correct.
Here's what we know for certain. Having stored much of their gear the day before in a makeshift shelter, the Dyatlov group skis in the direction of a Torten mountain, heading along the ridge of this pass almost a mile above the tree line, choosing this spot to camp. They were experienced hikers, yet for some reason they chose a completely exposed area to pitch their tent. Perhaps they tried for the peak and got caught here late in the day. Perhaps they were too tired to hike down to the relative safety of the forest.
The tent was found on the 26th of February.
So what do you make of this? You're the real outdoorsman here. When you see this scene, what do you make of this tent?
The first thing that comes to mind is the tent is still standing.
Right.
It's not blown away, it's not destroyed, the tent is sitting up.
Is this a place that you would pitch a tent?
It's a little exposed, but on an expedition like that, you would bivvy for the night and keep moving.
Yeah.
This was a category 3 expedition. It had to have certain number of cold nights, which means without firewood around.
This could explain a long-standing mystery. The stove was never assembled because they never intended to start a fire. Their diaries revealed they hadn't lit the stove the night before either, and were warm enough without it. But something else had investigators stumped.
The prosecutor who flew in on the 27th described the tent, that the tent had openings in it. They sent the tent for a lab test, and it was found out that it was cut from inside with at least 2 knives.
People have said that these were something that they cut so that they could escape the tent and get out quickly for some reason.
Once again, we're faced with the one question that matters. Why did the Dyatlov hikers leave their tent? What scared them so badly that they cut their way out of the only safety they had, to run to almost certain death?
It just makes no sense.
Something made them run like mad, man. Something.
As we enter the next phase of our search, we may finally find the answer.
Man, it is brutally windy. It's basically full throttle just to try to hold it in position. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna try to send it around.
The area directly above the tent continues to rise at a fairly gentle grade, so we push the drone even higher.
I'm gonna try to get this whole slope from every angle possible. Okay, coming around to the other side.
The camera reveals that the rise eventually steepens and tops out at 1,100 feet. While it isn't exactly a cliff face, it's still possible that a snowslide could occur here. And the investigation photos do show some snow atop the tent, which means the theory is technically still viable.
Okay, you got it.
But an avalanche isn't the only way the terrain could have killed the Dyatlov 9.
One of the theories that's gained some traction in recent years is the idea that an extremely rare weather event took place here. That maybe they were out here, they got caught in a blizzard or really, really tough conditions, an extreme temperature drop, and that maybe the winds whipped around this peak, creating a kind of perfect storm that spooked them out of the tent. This infrasound idea.
Infrasound, or a Kármán vortex, is a rare low-frequency sound wave, in this case generated by wind wrapping around the peak, that could lead to panic and confusion on the part of the hikers.
Possible?
This whistling, this sound that drove them mad, I mean, there's no evidence for that.
Right.
The phenomenon of infrasound has been observed in nature, but has not been proven to induce panic by those in its wake. Plus, all 9 of the hikers would have to have been influenced. Due to its highly theoretical nature, I think we can cross infrasound off our list. But we know the weather in Siberia doesn't need to get creative to kill people.
The only thing possible there for me to think about is the wind. Crazy 100-mile-an-hour winds, that's possible.
But anyone who's camped, and you know this better than anybody, anyone who's camped knows that tent is effectively a lifeboat. If you get into really bad conditions, you don't leave your tent.
And not only did our hikers leave the tent, they weren't dressed in the right clothes.
I have been in tents with winds come and they've destroyed the tents. As soon as you start hearing any wind, you put everything on, you get ready immediately. You cannot leave your boots, your clothes.
Right. You know, when people talk about this story, everybody has a theory, but most of them sort of fall apart. It's hard to come up with one explanation that satisfies all of the strange aspects of this case.
And it only gets stranger when you consider the scene that confronted investigators.
So Teddy, walk us through what they found inside the tent.
They found their boots, their clothes, outer jackets, buckets. They found everything. 50 meters from the tent, down the slope were visible footprints of hikers going down in their socks.
What we have to go on then are the bodies that were found by the searchers. They were found where?
They were found over a mile down to the tree line.
That's an incredible distance to traverse with no shoes on in this weather.
It just confirms the madness, the adrenaline. It seems like they were out of control.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's go down to the area where those bodies were found. Let's get off the side of the peak here.
I want to do that.
Okay,
Yeah, it's getting cold.
Yeah, it's getting colder by the minute.
With the temperature dropping and an entire camera crew to move, we take the snowmobiles, another life-saving luxury that the Dyatlov 9 didn't have. But as we approach the tree line, the terrain grows rough.
This section's tough. It's really bumpy. Super easy to lose control.
Then, the unthinkable happens.
You okay? Hey! Are you okay?
As you might imagine, I fly a lot. Like, a lot. From jumbo jets to puddle jumpers, if it flies, I've probably been on it. And like the rest of the world, I was shocked a few years ago at the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. How could something as massive as a commercial passenger plane just go missing? Even more surprising, this was not a singular tragedy. It happened before, right here in the United States. In the early hours of June 24, 1950, a Northwest Airlines DC-4 with 58 souls aboard was en route between New York and Minneapolis when she vanished into thin air over the waters of Lake Michigan, never to be seen again. At the time, it was the worst aviation disaster in U.S. history. And even today, Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 is the only large U.S. commercial airliner that remains missing. And yet most people know nothing about it. However, a team of experts has doggedly searched for 15 years, hoping to find answers and provide closure for the families of the victims. Now, they've narrowed down the area of a possible crash site, and new technology may finally pinpoint the exact location of the wreckage. So I'm taking to the skies on a mission of remembrance and a quest to uncover the truth behind America's forgotten aviation mystery, Northwest 2501. To find out what happened to America's missing airliner, I traveled to Minneapolis, Minnesota. I like to think of the larger of the Twin Cities as the Paris of the upper central Midwest. And for 76 years, Minneapolis was the headquarters for what was once one of the world's largest airlines.
We give you half the world on Northwest Orient Airlines.
Though the company was swallowed up by Delta in 2010, everything that's left is here, in a museum covering almost a century of aviation history, tended over by former Northwest employee Bruce Kitt.
Welcome to the Northwest Airlines History Center, Josh.
I'm an aviation nerd, so I gotta say I'm in heaven here.
Oh, you're gonna love this place.
This is awesome. So, okay, this huge airline started when and where and how?
Started Here in Minnesota, 1926 in St. Paul.
Okay.
And like all airlines back then, started carrying the mail for the post office.
And what's the fleet look like back then?
The fleet, lower your expectations, 2 rented biplanes.
In many ways, the story of Northwest is the story of commercial aviation itself. The frontier years of mail and cargo service give way to the passenger era, and suddenly the world is accessible to people in a way never before imagined.
An incredible evolution.
Well, you look at 3 passengers here, by the time you get to the Boeing 747, you're pushing 400.
All in less than a century.
All in less than a century.
Yeah. Let's talk about what it was like to be in these planes. Can you give me a sense of it?
Yeah, I think I can. Yes.
Yeah.
Why don't you come with me?
Sure.
Bruce walks me through the museum, which contains artifacts from every era of Northwest's history.
So we move into the 1950s. This is the elegant era. This is the glamorous era of air travel.
And people would dress up to travel,
Oh, they
right?
were dressed to the nines, yes. But they'd get on that plane and they were well taken care of. The seats were comfortable, kind of like a lazy boy in the sky.
Right.
The meal service was what they mostly wrote about.
If people wanted to eat on planes.
Wanted to eat on planes, you would have a tray put down in front of you. There would be china, there would be silverware, there would be glassware. I mean, you're eating a meal that you would have at your best restaurant at home, and here you're eating it at 10,000 feet while you're traveling 200 miles an hour to wherever you wanted to go.
Though flying is originally an exclusive playground for the uber-rich, by the 1950s, Northwest helps pioneer another innovation in aviation: coach class. More seats, fewer perks, but it opens up the skies to people like you and me.
Here, we're on the cusp of mass transportation in the airline industry. And you know,
Right.
the fares are economical and everybody's traveling.
As Northwest Airlines grew, they began to open some of the first international routes into Asia, rebranding as Northwest Orient. To publicize the move, they even rolled out ads featuring legendary comedian Buster Keaton.
Northwest
The gong would always sound before he got to it.
Right.
So it was Northwest Orient Airlines was the tagline.
Right.
Northwest 2501 was the first leg of the new routes into Asia. A 6-hour nighttime coach from New York that would fly west before turning north over the Great Lakes to reach Minneapolis. From there, travelers could go on to Seattle, Anchorage, and Tokyo.
And the equipment here was a DC-4.
Right. It was a 4-engine transport, much like the model behind you.
This is it right here, right?
representative of. Yes.
So this is the plane in question.
Right. This is a DC-4. This is the livery that it would have flown in for Flight 2501.
The key to investigating Flight 2501 is understanding what may have happened to the aircraft, and Bruce here is a bona fide expert.
Now, you were a mechanic for Northwest.
Yes.
For many years, yeah?
Many. 26.
What do you make of the DC-4?
As a plane, it had a very good record that represented a quantum jump, a doubling, actually, of passengers that you could carry. If you really want to get an understanding for this plane in Flight 2501, a model's not going to show you. You need to go see the real thing.
The real thing.
A real airplane.
To discover what may have brought down the plane, I seize a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity at the Washington County Airport outside of Pittsburgh, where a fully operational DC-4 is waiting on the tarmac. Piloting the Spirit of Freedom are Tim Chope and Dave Shurtleff.
Nice to meet you, sir. And look at this beauty. Wow.
Yeah, you did something?
Unbelievable. And how many of these DC-4s are still flying?
Well, as we know right now, about 6 in the world.
6 in the whole world?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. It has a unique livery, Spirit of Freedom, and I see Berlin Airlift on the tail. Berlin Airlift was a humanitarian operation?
That is correct, just after World War II.
In 1948, Soviet troops blockaded West Berlin, cutting off all rail and road links into the city. In response, the United States launched the Berlin Airlift, and for 18 months, an armada of planes, including this one, went into action, dropping nearly 3 million tons of supplies to the desperate Berliners below.
How long have you been piloting this plane?
I'm proud to say 26 years.
Wow. I noticed a few oil pools underneath it. That's normal?
Yes, very common.
Oh, yes.
For a radial engine, that's very common. The saying goes like this: if there's no oil on it or no oil under it, don't fly it. There's no oil in it.
Got it. So oil's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, Josh, shall we go fly?
I think we should. I'm
go.
in your hands, gentlemen. Let's go.
The DC-4 may not be the size of a jumbo jet, but don't call her small. Her wingspan is 118 feet, and she weighs a hefty 73,000 pounds. In design, she's nearly identical to Northwest 2501, offering me the rare opportunity to understand what may have happened aboard that fateful flight. That is, if I can find my seat.
I'm going here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There you go.
This is me.
Okay, David, let's have before start.
Okay, passenger briefing.
It is complete.
Pre-flight inspection.
Complete.
Doors.
Before anyone turns a key, Tim and Dave have a lengthy series of pre-flight checklists. And I do mean lengthy.
Gear pin, speed of cover, tail post.
They're on board.
Ground equipment, personnel.
Posted here on the left.
Fire guard, fire equipment.
Posted.
Before start check is complete.
Okay, start sequence will be 3, 4, 2, 1, and we're going to run on all the main tanks, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Roger.
Okay, turning 3.
Turning 2, 3, 4.
The first of the 4 80-year-old engines springs to life. Okay, maybe not springs. Coughs.
Floor clear. Turning 2, 3, 4.
One by one, the other engines are carefully ignited.
Coming in dry. We have oil pressure. Fuel pressure holding steady. Oil pressure. After check is complete, holding the brakes.
She's anxious to fly. I like that. That makes 2 of us.
Okay, Dave, you ready?
I am ready, sir.
Advise we're taking the runway.
The pilots coax her forward, and we taxi out onto the runway.
Cross check both sides. Before takeoff check is complete.
Okay, here we go.
The DC-4 roars as it gains speed.
We have 50.
And we're quickly running out of tarmac. Until finally, the nose lifts up, and we soar into the sky. Our destination? The truth about Northwest 2501.
Unbelievable. First observation, now that I'm up here, this instrumentation pretty much looks like what it looked like in 1950?
Yes, it does. We don't have a big screen to tell us exactly where we're at all the time. We still use a navigation chart.
Right. And Northwest 2501, when these guys are navigating across the country, they're not being tracked in real time, right? By radar.
No, they're not.
Unlike today, where planes are tracked using a network of ground radar stations. In 1950, civil aircraft would have to manually check in with airport towers as they traveled and receive instructions as they progressed. Air traffic control was primarily done with blackboards and people who were very good at math. They would take the pilot's reports and then estimate where everyone would be, then do it all over again when the next reports came in.
In the case of 2501, they left LaGuardia, they're flying west.
Yes, they're flying west. They departed LaGuardia at 7:31. A beautiful summer evening.
Like this.
Just like this, 55 passengers and a crew of 3.
Crew of 3, so there would have been a pilot, co-pilot, and a flight attendant, right?
Correct. The initial leg was very comfortable. They were having no issues at all.
Cruising at 6,000 feet, the first few hours of the flight passed uneventfully. Being a night flight, many of the passengers no doubt try to sleep during the trip to Minneapolis. At 10:20 p.m., Flight 2501 crosses into Ohio.
2.5 hours after departing LaGuardia, they reported in near Cleveland requesting an altitude change to 4,000.
Descending to 4,000?
Yeah, this is an unpressurized airplane, so you can't go too high.
Today, we cruise at high altitudes in pressurized airplane cabins, which allow us to travel safely without oxygen masks. Flight 2501, like all commercial flights of the time, was unpressurized, so they generally had to fly under 10,000 feet.
There's a reason, though, that we don't want to fly today below 10,000 feet, right?
All of your weather turbulence is down at those levels.
Right, exactly. So they probably wanted to descend to just get underneath whatever clouds were already there.
Yes, that would be one reason to go down. 30 minutes later, they were requested by air traffic control to descend to 3,500 feet because of conflicted traffic with another plane that was eastbound who had just come out of that same weather.
So at that point, they may have had an idea that they were headed toward a storm system.
Yeah, they had confirmation that the thunderstorms were there.
Though the pilots knew about a storm, they had no idea of how bad it really was.
Northwest 2501 copy. Descend 500 feet.
At a weather station at Manitowoc, Wisconsin, meteorologists recorded a 115 millibar drop in air pressure and wind gusts of 71 miles an hour as the squall rolled through. Flight 2501, unaware of the storm's intensity, would be flying directly into it. Continuing west, the pilots check in with the control tower at Battle Creek, Michigan, as scheduled.
Northwest 2501. Position Battle Creek. Estimating Milwaukee. 2337.
What's the last radio call we know of from Flight 2501?
Okay, after Battle Creek at 1213, they requested to continue their descent to 2,500 feet, most likely due to turbulence.
Make sure everyone's seatbelt is fastened.
As they approach Lake Michigan, the wind kicks up, and at only 3,500 feet, they feel every gust.
Control, Northwest 2501. Request permission to descend to 2,500 feet. Do you copy?
They were denied this.
And why is that?
Due to another airplane in the area.
And at that point, does the pilot say where he is?
Yes, he did. He reported that he was in the vicinity of Benton Harbor, Michigan.
2501 was flying on a kind of highway in the sky called an airway. This one was Red 57. On that route, they were supposed to cross the lake over the town of Glen. Yet the pilot claimed he was near Benton Harbor, almost 50 miles to the south. Assuming his position was correct, why did 2501 go off course? It's a mystery that has never been fully explained.
And then what do we hear from them after that? Anything?
Nothing after that.
That's it?
That's it.
At 12:15 a.m. on June 24th, 1950, Flight 2501 flies into the heart of a massive storm and disappears. Her fate isn't a mystery for long, though, as grim clues begin to wash ashore. At the time, it is the worst air disaster in American history.
With only 6 of these planes still flying in the world, I don't know that I'm going to get another opportunity to ask this question. You fly a DC-4. What do you think happened to that flight?
Well, I think he got over the lake into a very severe thunderstorm with extreme turbulence and either had structural failure or he just encountered a downdraft situation that he couldn't overcome and ended up in the lake.
You literally mean winds pushing down on the plane and they're too low to recover out of that?
That is correct.
Wow. And it is possible to have turbulence bad enough to break this plane apart?
It is, yes.
Wow.
Sitting in one of the few DC-4s left in the air, this is perhaps the closest I'll ever get to being in the shoes of the passengers aboard 2501. It's a terrifying thought to imagine this plane flying in a storm, and even worse, to imagine what came next. But thankfully, on today's flight, Tim and Dave are navigating in calmer weather.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you guys having me up here.
Thank you, Josh. We're delighted that you would be on board with us.
Okay, let's get ourselves back to the airport here.
Tim brings the plane around and begins the landing procedure. It's every bit as detailed as the one he used for takeoff.
Okay, landing gear down.
Landing gear going down.
down, pressure's up, triggering lights.
Flaps.
Flaps 30.
Flaps 30. 100, down at 700. 98, down at 700. 95.
Give me
down.
idle.
Engines at idle. 85, down 700. 80.
You got hydraulics?
Bypass that.
Okay, keep the stick back.
Roger, good stick. Tim, can I open my eyes? Are we alive?
Yes.
Oh, what a thrill.
When the plane safely touches down, I realize how much I take modern air safety for granted.